Hey, kid!
Yeah?
Are you looking for something exciting to read while you enjoy some sugary cereal?
Yeah!
Then grab a copy of Mighty Mascots from Alterna Comics! Born from the ashes of a disastrous 3D printing accident, 8 living advertisements have banded together to right the wrongs of this world, led by a former child star. These unlikely heroes are freaks to some, but you will know them as the Mighty Mascots. The miniseries is 3 issues, full color, and printed on glorious newsprint. This is the fun superhero series that you didn't know you needed. Created and written by Keith Gleason, featuring artwork by Ian Morianto, and colors by Anton Bondi.
Ahoy, I can't wait for more!
Mighty Mascots is part of your complete breakfast and comic book reading experience. Only from Alterna Comics.
Hey, everybody! Welcome to a special episode of Indie Comics Relay. I'm your host, Keith Gleason, creator of the Mighty Mascots. With me, as always, Johnny C., creator of Surrounded by Death and Sartana. What's up, man?
I'm glad to be here on a extra special Wednesday night. Normally it would be our off week, but we have something very special going on. Something that's very special to me. So exactly. I really wanted to do this episode. And we're lucky too, because we have a lot of great creators that are joining us tonight.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because we schedule so far out that sometimes we can't, if we hear about a Kickstarter just starting up or an Indiegogo just starting up, it's hard to kind of work them in. But I feel like these special episodes are always fun, for once in a blue moon, especially. It's a project you're involved in, and I'm involved in, actually, because I lettered your book or your story, I should say. And then all these people that I haven't met, which would be kind of cool to just kind of get to know everybody tonight, which would be great. And then, before we do that, though, I definitely want to, check out what anything going on in your neck of the woods, Johnny, in the past week or so before we get started.
So just fulfillment for Kickstarter. A lot of my books for Surrounded by Death have gone out. I'm at about 80% fulfilled, which is nice. So that's good.
You're getting there, man.
We're getting there. And then, we've got this campaign that we have the show about that launched. So that's running right now. I mean, like I said, this campaign, or specifically this series, has been so special to me. It's one of the first, anthologies I was involved with. A creator who's running it, who's wildly successful. I've, crossed paths with him in San Diego and New York Comic-Con, and he's just such a hard worker. And I've, wanted to have him on the show for the right project, and this is perfect. Of all things, this is it. And the other fun fact about this project is that I've never done a trilogy of anything in my whole entire life. So this is a third volume of something where I have a cohesive 3-part story, and I'm kind of proud of
that's
that
cool,
too.
man. I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So-
definitely. One thing I wanted to mention, I'm not going to bring it up, but the Alterna campaign, we just went to Pete just sent everything to the printer. So that's going to be fulfilling probably in the next month or so. So if anyone hasn't gotten Mighty Mascots number 5 and 6, or even the earlier issues, you can jump on the Alterna winter campaign that's on Indiegogo right now. Just sign up and you can add on the earlier issues if you want.
And that's the only place you can get those trading cards, the collector
trading cards, and the only
which
place
Boxer Bears won, right, for this set.
No, but I think he's gonna start doing some of the Mighty Mascots. I think because I had comics in there, he didn't want to do it. So like future campaigns, there'll be something Mighty Mascots related in there, which is cool.
Yeah.
One other cool thing I want to mention too, that just happened this week, Johnny. I was saving it to tell you on the show, which was kind of cool. I've been doing cereal reviews, on this channel, like just weird ones, like FYE ones and things like that, just to kind of tie it into my comic and stuff.
Yeah.
And FYE contacted me earlier this week, and they were like, "Hey, we love your cereal reviews. We're gonna send you our next cereal to have you review." They're sending me like they're doing a Ren and Stimpy powdered toast man cereal.
Oh wow, that's awesome!
How cool is that? So
like get the early review on a specific cereal.
I'm an influencer now.
You're an influencer. It's like at the end of Spaceballs, she's like, "I'm a prince."
Yeah. Right? But how cool is that? It was something, like out of the blue.
Man. Congrats.
So that's cool. But it made me feel good that the channel's kind of getting out there,
Yeah.
And that's just great. So that's one big news this week. Before we bring in everybody, though, let's just say a quick hello to the chat, because we always love our fans out there. So we got Dr. Mask in there. Hail Indian Comics Relay. Hail chat. Cthulhu saves. I love that. Yes. Johnny C said, "Hey all, thanks for watching."
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Who else we got in here? Harry. Is Hacksaw Jim Duggan on tonight? Well, unless he's a Cthulhu in the cult of Cthulhu, I don't think
Probably
so.
not.
Thanks for joining us, Harry, as always. My wife is as well. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for managing the chat for us, Amy. Ara's in the chat tonight. Hi,
Ara. Thank you. Thank you, Ara. Patron saint of Indie Comics. So real quick for Harry, this third volume of Cthulhu is called Battle Royale with a wrestling-themed cover. So that ties to wrestling somewhat.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
If that counts for something.
Dr. Mask, he must be saying that about the cereal. Yeah, thank you. That was really cool. I was very shocked by that. Adam Warlock said, "Hey, folks, thanks for joining us, Adam, as always." And Dr. Mask said, "Who doesn't like powdered toast man?" Right?
I imagine it's going to taste like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, right?
That's my guess too. Yeah. I mean, if it's a powdered Toastman cereal, it's got to be right. It's going to be probably the French Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And he's like, "Ho, like Jim Duggan." I love it. Awesome. As always, great having all you guys in the chat tonight. Anyone out there that's watching for the first time, please go to the channel, like and subscribe. That's how we get out to more comic fans and more indie comic fans, All right, perfect. So, all right, Johnny. So let's. Do you know everybody? I knew we.
I know most. I know most people. There's a few new friends here tonight too, so that'll be great to kind of get to know them as well. I've been in 3 volumes of the book, and there's still stories I've overlooked. I've kind of read each volume piecemeal, like story by story. So it hasn't been a cover to cover experience for me yet. So it'll be cool to just hear some stories.
Oh, awesome. And I'm counting. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guests tonight.
7 guests tonight.
This is not only going to be a Battle Royale anthology, it's going to be a Battle Royale talk show, So,
well, Keith, that's why you're here to wrangle, right?
Yeah. I'll do my best.
Not talk until I'm called upon.
I feel like I'm going to be Mean Gene trying to wrangle the wrestlers. But all right, so without further ado, let me start bringing everybody in.
Make this happen.
All right, perfect. Let's start with the first one in my window here. Tim. Hey, Tim, how's it going? Thanks.
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, thanks
Thanks
for
for
coming
taking the
on,
time.
man.
Thanks for coming on, Tim.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's a big honor. I'm thrilled to be associated with the book, and these stories are going to blow you guys' minds. The roster of talent that they have working on this project. I'm lucky to be affiliated with it. I'm loving every minute.
Awesome.
Man.
Yeah,
That's how I
looking
felt
forward to
about
getting to
getting
know
involved
more,
too.
more about the anthology. So let me bring in our second guest, Abby. Abby B. Hey,
Hey,
hard
Abby.
at work. I like that, Abby. Awesome.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for taking the time to come
Thanks
on.
for inviting us.
Yeah, definitely. And third person, Russell. Russell, thanks for coming
Hi.
on the show, man.
Yeah,
I
thanks for-
understand you are the mastermind behind this anthology.
Yes, I'm mastermind, but Chris is the brains. Chris
Okay.
Simon is the brains.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, I definitely want to get into all of that. The next guest we have Nick. Nick, all right.
Welcome back, Nick.
What's up?
What's going on, man? Thanks for
Hey,
joining
Not
us.
much.
Well,
My favorite show to
that-
be on.
Awesome.
Thanks,
I
Nick.
love hearing
And
that. Thank you,
Quick
buddy.
shout out to Nick. He's got The Kid and the Ripper still live right now on Kickstarter, right?
Dude,
That's right. It's live until 9 a.m. tomorrow.
9 a.m.
Nice,
tomorrow. So we're in the
nice.
final hours, guys. Check that out.
Awesome. And next person we got here is LK. LK.
Hey, everyone.
Hey,
Yeah.
how's it going? Thanks for joining us.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're
Thanks for
welcome.
coming on.
And finally, Kara. Hey, Kara.
Hey,
Hi.
Caro.
Thanks
Hi
for
there.
joining us.
Mhm. Yeah,
Awesome.
good to be
This
here.
This could be, Johnny, this could be the biggest group we've ever had on this show, wouldn't you say?
I think so. Yeah, it might be. It might be. I'll let you wrangle, Keith. Now, this is where you work your magic, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess we'd start with Russell on this one. I mean, Russell, like, give us a little history on, like, all three of these anthologies. Like, how did they come about? Like,
Sure, this is great. I feel like the middle of the Brady Bunch intro.
yeah, you're right. You're like the Alice.
So we put out an anthology called Monsters and Other Scary Shit in 2017. That was kind of like my big break book. Like it did better than all of my other books I'd ever put out combined.
And that was your first anthology?
Yeah, that was our first anthology. That one, Nick was in that one.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Nick.
And
He's all
so
over the place.
he's like an OG. He's the OG creator for one of the ones who has stayed throughout the whole, even all the way back to Monsters. And after that book, I love that book, and I don't want to downplay it because I think it's a great book. But like, there were certainly some glaring issues that people brought up afterwards. For instance, it was not all ages. It was not color. It was very bloody, and people couldn't share it with their kids. And that was what I kept getting over and over and over and over again. Like, I'd be like, don't open that. What I got was kids reaching for the anthology, me being like, you shouldn't. Like,
Interesting. So were you guys going for that though? Were you going for like a kids kind of anthology? Or?
What I learned was just mostly kids buy anthologies. Like it's mostly like a younger audience because of like, if you think of like what anthologies are geared for, like Simpsons, Adventure Time, all of those series are like in anthology format. Lumberjanes, like they're all kind of an anthology format. And it's a lot easier for a parent to like read a 2-page story to a kid at night than like have them sit there for 100 pages of a story. Like it's just not going to happen for most kids. So, it was so easy to make these changes. Like it was so easy to like just not have blood, like to just like not have cursing and to like make it full color. Like it was like not without changing any of the stories except maybe Stan Yak's story that was very, very bloody. Like I could have pretty much, and maybe like Scott Bachman's story about the suicidal Sesame Street character. Like there's a couple stories that we probably could have had to tone down, but like it was a very easy fix to like give them something. And like our stories are like Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter is a very bloody book. Like Katrina is a very bloody book. Like Pixis is a very bloody book. So like the people were like, I want something to share with my kids. That I can't share any of your work with my kids. So we went to design this series. I was like, okay, like what are the things you like? And I'll just design that series. Like, I'm agnostic. And I had really not delved into Lovecraft. There is a Lovecraft story in the Monsters and Other Scary Shit anthology, but like it was a very like cute, like old timey cartoon style Lovecraft story, which is funny because now we have one in this anthology too. But they said Lovecraft, they said Invader Zim, like they said all ages and all the other stuff that we're talking about. So like that was my first real introduction to Lovecraft, was 2017 when I started putting this together. And I did not realize I'd have to become an expert on his life or defend his career or his choices. Like, I just wanted to make a cool book with monsters. And
that's the tough thing, right? Because it's like it's separating the art from the artist. And like it's the ultimate with Lovecraft, isn't it?
Yeah, and I feel like I feel like I equivocate a lot about Lovecraft, but like he was a terrible person for 90% of his life that died penniless and alone, and probably because he was miserable. But in doing so, he did repent for his terrible ways later in his life, which is nice to at least have something to say. Like, you know, he was terrible, but like he did like apologize and was very sad about it, which we actually explored in the second anthology. But in this kind of mind, he made this beautiful thing, which to me is a mythos that is unbound by religion. And like every other mythology that generally exists is either based upon a religion or like directly a religion. So like C.S. Lewis is such a religious, like, or Tolkien is so like, they're very Christian, and it comes across in their work. Like, Lovecraft was none of that stuff. He was an atheist who like thought there was nothing out there. And in doing that, he created this, like what I think probably would happen if gods existed, whereas like they just would not care. They wouldn't care because like we are so below them. And Norse mythology, Greek mythology, like humanity is the center of it because it's a religion and they have to make money and like they have to like spread their thing. So, but like I was so intrigued by this idea that like basically gods that don't care about you and they just have their own stuff going on. And frankly, they're not even in most of the stories. Like the Lovecraft gods are barely in the mythos. And in going back and doing research on it for the first book, I was like, wow, there's a real gap in Lovecraft, which is hard because Lovecraft has been pretty consistently written for 100 years. Like maybe between the 40s and the 50s, he was not as written, but like pretty consistently, people have carried on his legacy since his death. And so for there to, and like in a big way, like, so to find a gap was very interesting. And the gap that I found was nobody talks about the gods and monsters of the universe. Like the general Lovecraft conceit is a weird person goes to a weird town, finds a weird cult trying to unlock something weird. And then at the end, everyone goes mad and dies when like the gods are seen. And so like the gods would the mythology would appear throughout the course of the book very sparingly, but the gods themselves would not. And the monsters rarely were seen except for like Dagon, Cthulhu sometimes, and Nyarlathotep, who is like a mainstay. He's like the one that is always there. He's like the one that interacts with humanity and like likes humanity, or at least like tolerates humanity and finds them interesting.
So was that like the little nugget that inspired like your anthology?
Yeah, the little nugget of like, well, the first book is the monster anthology is a monster anthology about monsters, and this was a monster anthology about Lovecraft. So the rule was you had to focus on the gods or monsters. Okay. They had to be very prominent in the story. Now, I didn't necessarily follow that all of the time because I felt like you needed to have some straight Lovecraft stories in the book, frankly. Like some of the stories are your straight Lovecraft horror where like people are investigating something creepy and like very disturbing. But generally we had like, I would say 90% or more of the stories have this emphasis on the gods themselves. And then I combined that with this idea that like, if I'm going to tell an anthology about Lovecraft, like I need a diverse amount of people. Like I want to have a diverse amount of people. I don't think I accomplished that really well. That was one of the big missteps in the first anthology, not to have diverse voices. from all across the spectrum and like well represented. And so I was like, if I'm going to do a Lovecraft book, like it has to fit this criteria, because I have to show what I really wanted to talk about was how he's been remixed since his life. Like that was the really interesting part to me as a creator. Like what is amazing is so many people have come along and used his work consistently, almost an unbroken chain since his death. And like that is exceedingly rare to find someone outside of a family member who carries on your legacy. And then not only carries on your legacy, but makes new stuff in your legacy. As a creator, the idea that like random people just loved Lovecraft's work enough that they would carry it on from friend to friend to friend to friend was an incredible like thing to me. So I wanted to, so those all sorts of things coalesced into the idea that I wanted this Lovecraft anthology that had diverse voices, not just in like race, creed, gender, sexual orientation, all of that stuff, but also just in the styles that people created in. Like I wanted people who like did poetry, and I wanted people who did like straight Lovecraft stuff, and I wanted people who did slice of life things, and I wanted people that had different styles to talk about remixing this man's work and his legacy after his life.
Gotcha. No, I like that.
It feels like a remix. That's a really great way of putting it, Russell. Is like it's totally remixed. There's stories that turn Lovecraft on its head, and there's some that pay homage very closely and very delicately, you know?
Yeah, it is a love letter to Lovecraft. So like all the things that I'm saying here, like these are lovingly, like this isn't a parody of Lovecraft or like a takedown of Lovecraft. All of these stories are made very lovingly with the mythos in mind, but they do subvert the things, but they do it in a way like, there's two ways to subvert and do satire. One is like mean, and one is like, oh, these people clearly know like what they're like they clearly have reverence for the text, but they're making fun of it in a way that I can like, or like they're turning on a head. And I believe we've been very consistent in the whole thing of like, we are in the later camp. Like we are going to remix and take things out and break them apart, but we're going to do it in a way that like, we love this mythos, not in a way that is like poking fun at this mythos.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, and that's a good side note. Everything's very respectful to the source material. It's just it's done in a variety of different ways, and that's part of the beauty of the book, I'd say, or the series rather.
Is everybody here like have you guys been a part of all three anthologies, or have you guys done one? Or I guess we'll start with Tim. Tim, is this your first one, or have you been?
This is my first one. Yes. Yeah, I'm thrilled to be aboard. It was a great experience for me, and I hope you guys like the story.
Awesome. Are you more of on the writing side or?
I'm a writer.
Okay.
And I sort of. I'm from York, Pennsylvania. I sort of became a little publisher accidentally. I got a team of artists that I work with, and we put out a couple of books. But I'm really the writer, is what I'm trying to do and trying to accomplish. But I'm primarily a Kickstarter guy these days. I get it put out through the Kickstarters. But what we're here to talk about tonight, of course, is the short story, The Heir of the Last Acolyte, right? Which I was super excited to submit it, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm really just glad to be along for the ride, to tell you the truth.
Awesome. That's great, man.
Awesome.
How about you, Nick? Were you part of all three, or?
I missed one.
You missed one?
I go back to the Monsters and Other Scary Shit, but I was not a part of the first Cthulhu anthology, but the other two.
Oh, cool.
So I got 3 for 4.
3 for 4, nice.
Right on.
And that's pretty good.
I'm assuming, Russell, you have a story in all three as well?
I did, with the same artist, Eric Lervold, who've done all of our anthologies together.
Awesome. How about you, Abby? Are you go ahead.
Only 2. The last 2 we've been a part of.
Gotcha. Are you a writer, artist?
I'm an artist.
Artist, awesome.
Okay.
Which what?
LK.
With LK. Oh, cool. Very cool. And LK, you're the writer. Have you been a part of 2 as well, or?
Yeah, the last 2. Or I don't know if we can call this one the last one yet, because we're still in the middle. So yeah.
Gotcha. What's like
the
quick elevator pitch for your story?
Our story is Orientation Day, and it's about a guy going to college And this is like the whole thing is that the gods are on Earth, and the old gods are like, mad because they're, they don't want to. I'm not doing it as justice as Russell would do it, but so they're going to orientation day, and the Cthulian gods they run the school, and so all sorts of chaos ensues, and there's a little twist at the end. I don't want to spoil it too much. So
awesome.
I should say that there's a theme for all of each book, and the first one was Lovecraft gods preparing to invade, and then the second one is Lovecraft gods invading and taking over, and then the third one is like the mythological gods and heroes of and humanity rising up to try and take back the universe. So like that's why, like if things are like, why are mythological gods with love? It's like it's the third anthology, so like that's why that's the conflict that is happening in this.
Gotcha. And so that's sort of like the theme everybody had to shoot for when they put a story in.
Yeah, and we're like we loosely do it, so like not everything is on that theme, but like the theme will be ever present throughout the book, and hopefully if you read the first two, you'll also be able to be like, oh, I see, like yeah, they're preparing to invade, and then this story is like them invading, and then here they are like kind of pushing back on things. I'm hoping that will happen. I haven't talked to anybody who's read all three yet that like could confirm, but like that was like each one was very clearly that theme when I like put the call out, and I think that people did a really good job of that.
And Kara, I think you were Johnny's artist, right?
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Yes.
Now, were you Johnny's artist for all three stories?
Yes, all three stories. We worked on all three stories together. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah,
where did you guys meet, Johnny? Did you guys?
So I met Kara at I think it was 2017 C2E2.
Correct. Yeah.
And usually when I go to a show, if I'm not exhibiting, I have to have a takeaway, something that is worth the trip to, another part of the country, right? Okay. So at that show, it was a show that, and I talk about it a lot on this show, where I did like 5 conventions in 6 weeks, and I was deathly ill.
No.
And I couldn't get a cancellation on the flight. So I was like, okay, I'm going to fly to Chicago, wicked sick. I have a panel to be on, but that's about it. But I got to have some takeaway. Like I got to have something to, walk away with. And this is, at the time, I believe I'd spoke to Russell about being in Monsters. Okay. And Monsters was just wrapping up, and I had an idea for that. And we were doing the Creator After Con after C2E2, and I was so lucky to meet Kara there. And we just chit-chatted a little bit, and I think it clicked. I think we clicked, Kara. I don't know what.
Yeah, I remember I went to the event, and I had brought my portfolio of art and comics I'd worked on, and you pitched your idea to me, and I was like, that sounds great. And a while later, we started working on the comic together. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
and
that's about right.
Eventually plugged it into the anthology. We found a way to make it work into the anthology.
Yeah, that first one was very unique because we wrote it for Monsters, but we kind of missed the deadline. So when Cthulhu came around, Russell was like, well, I like the story, but I can't really use it for Cthulhu. That's how it went, if I remember correctly, Russell. And
I think
so. Would you guys retool it to make it work?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
We had to change the bad guy at the very end and do it pretty quickly, but I like what it turned out actually much better than what the original comic was going with. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super cool. I think that they have the most pages of anyone outside of me in this in the whole series. I think I haven't counted, but like very few people got 8 pages, and the people that did have not gotten 8 pages before or been in all 3. So like I think there's a pretty good shot that like you guys have the most pages of
yeah.
We bent the rules a little bit.
Yeah, you bent he bent the rules for each anthology. Frankly, I kept saying I can't give you this many pages, and he's like, "Come on, man, I need that many pages." I was like, and here's the thing: after the first one, when he said like he needs all that pages, Like I think I gave him extra because like the second volume, if you were in the first one, you could only have 4 pages. But I'm pretty sure he got 6 pages. Y'all got 6 pages in that one, or 8, or even 8 pages, because like he's like, I need more. I want to come back, but I need more room. And then this one, I was like, Johnny, man, I can't give you 8 pages again. There's so many pages. And he's like, I can't do it in 6. And I was like, I've seen your work. Like, I've seen you try and cut these things down, and like every time you're like, I can't cut it down, man. So like, but they always turn out good. Like I couldn't let this one go because
that's awesome. That's awesome to hear.
Like of all the pieces that went across all 3 books, Mary Bellamy's and theirs was like a real story. Like it was like it has a beginning, and theirs theirs was more on theme than Mary's or pretty much anyone's, because it was like the first one was conquered the world, or like prepare to conquer the world. Then it was one was like he was conquering the world, then he was ruling the world, and then he like the third one is like the and so like I couldn't, like they wanted 10 pages, they could have had it, because like it needed to be in the book, because it's such a prominent part of like what I think of when I think of the Cthulhu anthology.
Oh.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Russell. We appreciate that. Man. That means a lot.
Yeah.
That's great.
think
Ara said, hey, what a panel. The level of awesomeness.
Thank you, Ara.
Thanks, Ara.
Ara, you're the best, man.
And Amy said, right, Ara, this is great. And Dr. Mess said Conan had gods, but he often said the gods could care less about the humans. I think that's
this is a very interesting thing, because Robert E. Howard and Lovecraft were very close friends, as much as anyone could be close friends with H.P. Lovecraft. And Lovecraft would beg Howard to put his gods, the Lovecraftian gods, in his books. So like there was definitely a lot of like cross-pollination stuff there as well.
That's awesome. Harry said, you haven't asked the classic question of what everyone's origin story is. That's true.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's one thing
to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I do have I usually, like, whenever we have a guest one-on-one, we usually have to find out what put people on the path to being comic creators, like whether it was a comic that you read or a TV show or a movie or something like that. So if we want to go around the room, just find that out from everybody, since the audience.
Should we do like the lightning round, or should we do like?
Yeah, we'll do a lightning round kind of thing. We'll go around the room, starting with Tim.
All right, just buzz me when I get to my segment's over.
So
play him off.
I remember mine pretty clearly. I was submitting scripts for an animated television show for a network called Spike TV, if anybody remembers.
I remember that.
Yeah, Spike TV.
And I'm proud to say that all mine were rejected, but I got some experience out of the deal. And when I lived in Florida in 2015 or 16 or so, I paired up with a fella by the name of Martin Dunn, and they had a thing they called the bullpen, and it basically was sort of like a seminar. They would walk you through the building blocks of making your own comic. And I got through the first one with their small studio, and by the time I got to the second one, I knew how to do it. And I'd been a short story writer for a pretty long time, and I was never getting any traction with my short stories, at least not in the conventional sense where you might be getting in magazines and this kind of thing, and a compilation maybe. But I hadn't even heard of Kickstarter yet. In those days, you still went to comic conventions. But what I did was I started converting the short stories over into comic book scripts, and with the plan that we would hire really top quality, the best people in the industry if we could, right? And that was the first series was a 4-piece robot rock band called Socket. And that one did okay. And that, like I say, that was pre-Kickstarter. And when I started getting into Kickstarter, that was for my science fiction series, which is called Water Wars. And that's the one, I guess, that, you listen to the audience, right? So that's the one that I've been jumping in the water on. I'm doing okay with that one.
So, but was there a certain comic or something from like when you were young that made you want to become a writer? Like,
for sure. Mine are easy ones. They're the Trinity, the Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman, and Grant Morrison. I guess probably most of the comic writers say that. Like,
yeah, I can picture right away which era.
And I was a big fan of the Vertigo line, if people liked the Vertigo line, and that would have been like your Swamp Thing and your horror titles. And man, every week I would run to get the Vertigo titles.
I agree. That was the part where I grew up, and right in that era of comics where it was
Do
kind
you
of.
have a favorite Vertigo title? What's your favorite Vertigo title?
Oh my God, I used to love them all. Probably John Constantine, Hellblazer.
I was just
Followed by
Constantine.
Preacher, probably. Those were
definitely
the two
on my
that
list too. Yeah,
gravitated towards, and then eventually Sandman. Took me forever to get into Sandman, though.
It's a little bit of a slow burn, but that was
it
when people
is.
started
I
to
remember
say again.
starting it like 3 times and then never finishing it, and then finally the 4th time, I'm like, I'm gonna plow through and finish this thing, and I'm glad I did because I finally got it. I finally loved it the 4th time.
Well, it's a very specific cadence too. Like
What's that? It does.
Like in his prose too. Same thing happened to me. Like a couple of times, like I don't get it, and then I read a lot of Neil Gaiman's prose, like a lot of all of.
That's
his
what it is.
And I went back and I was like, oh,
yep,
yeah. Now I
would
it.
always get to the storyline with the serial killer convention, and right after that is
great stuff.
And I was just like, I can't get into this, and then I just finally grabbed every volume, and I just like, I'm gonna read it, and I freaking did it, and I'm glad I got past it because it does get really good.
Do you know do you remember the series Black Orchid, the remake? With Neil Gaiman?
Yeah, I do remember that.
And
that
the Dave
great.
McKean,
amazing
painted art. Yeah, that was incredible.
That was good
It'd be
stuff.
fair to say that we took that book as the template for when we first started to make. Well, it was the Hunchback book at the time was what we were making, and we were trying to emulate what they called in the '90s a prestige format graphic novel. In other words, that's what it looks like, kind of. There's nothing too particular. I'm not really sold on the term graphic novel 100%. They are comic books at the end of the day, right?
Right.
But I understand why people say that, and that's why we sort of have one comic book and one graphic novel sort of going in our little repertoire. But as far as my start, it was definitely, for me, it was those guys. That was when they said, hey, comics can be good. And I can definitely remember Alan Moore and Grant Morrison right away. This is great scripting. It made me notice.
Yeah, definitely. And I know, Nick, you probably told us when you were on the show about a month ago, but I can't remember what your choice was.
It was Christopher Reeve, Superman.
Yes, that's right. That's right. We went off in a whole tangent about that. That's right. Yeah,
because we actually hadn't discussed Superman, Richard Donner's Superman, at all on the show before. I think it was the first time we reached that topic.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Definitely. I'm actually. It's funny that
you're wasting your life doing.
I'm actually reading a comic right now called Superman 78. Have you guys seen this? It's a DC comic where it's a new story set in the continuity of the Donner Superman universe. It's really cool. So cool. Far, it would make the perfect Superman 3 after 1 and 2, but I'm waiting to see how it ends.
Whoa! Are you trying to retcon Richard Pryor?
I am. I mean, that movie should have just been called Richard Pryor Gets a Job. I mean, that's pretty much all that movie is, really. It does have some funny moments in it, but anyways. How about you, Russell? Was there a certain movie, cartoon, comic that kind of put you on this path to becoming a writer?
So coming back to comics, it would be Y the Last Man. When I first was a kid, the Claremont X-Men was like a thing, and the DC Death of Superman, like all the classic.
Yeah.
The Spider-Man where whatever the line is, where like with the Ben Reilly, like that like switch. All very good ones, but coming back, it was definitely Y the Last Man was the first one where I was like, oh my God, like comic, like this is exactly how I want to write comics.
Yeah.
Nice. Yep.
Nice.
How about you, Abby?
I feel like I don't really have like a specific comic that really put me on the board for it. Like I've just always kind of been an artist, and I'm always looking for like something new to get into. So were you like a traditional artist and then kind of found comics? Or? Yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. So I actually did like a certification thing on like LinkedIn or something like that. That was done by Ben Bishop.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
cool.
Yeah. So and then I got to meet him, and then it was just like, and here I am.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah,
also, your cat in the
is
background's very adorable, by the way. I just had to comment.
She thinks so too.
My wife is
stealing
the
the show
same.
on the low.
I was gonna say my wife is the same way. She's like she's a traditional artist, but she actually does a lot of comic kind of themed artwork as well,
Yeah.
like pop culture prints and things like that. And she actually does sculpting too. She makes these amazing like
Same.
My Little Pony. Like she takes My Little Ponies and resculpts them into other things.
Yeah,
that's
that's how I am. I will do anything. Like if it strikes my interest, I hyper focus on that. And that's kind of like how comics started for me, was like I started hyper focusing on it. And then I was like, oh my God, like you can do so many different things with these, and I can take animation and I can implement it into this. So it became a whole project, and now here I am.
That's awesome. And I'm fascinated by this subject, but like how was it for you to move from like traditional artwork to like doing like a comic book where it's like sequential art, where it's like trying to tell a story with the artwork? Is it like was it a culture shock for you, or
no? Not really. I think it felt like it gave me more control over the subject matter, because like for me, like I can draw and I'm an illustrator, so I draw one illustration and it's like, okay, well, people will ask me about, oh, what's this character's name or whatever, things like that. But like with a comic, I can actually explain that, and I can actually tell that story and talk about them. So it wasn't really a culture shock. It was fun. It's fun exploring. It's fun adding to the skill set.
Yeah, very cool. I like that. How about you, LK?
So I've been writing like, I don't know, forever-ish. Like I always say high school. I was writing before that, but that's like when I really got more into it. Yeah, and then on and off from there throughout college. And then it was like at the end of college when I started reading comics, but I didn't really think about like, oh, I could do this. Yeah, because I wasn't thinking of like hiring an artist or whatever. I was thinking like, oh, I gotta, it's like I'm not gonna do the art. And then I was doing some more writing, and I was following Russell, and he was talking about how writers can it's like you don't have to do your own art and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, I could get somebody to do that for me, couldn't I?
So you had never even really thought about comics at
I didn't
all.
think about it. No, I'm like, I like to do all the things and try all the things, but sometimes I don't think about like technically anything, like everything is made somehow. So you could learn how to make literally anything, but that would, who's got the time for that much? It's a little unrealistic.
I was like, I do.
So are you more, would you consider a novelist?
Well, I haven't written one yet. I have some ideas that are started and in progress, but nothing actually like finished. So
nice.
Yeah.
But more just you were doing short stories and things like that.
I have a poetry book coming out in August.
Oh, very cool.
Awesome.
And do you set up at conventions too? Like, because I know some authors will do that. They'll set up and sell their books and books of poetry and things like that, and then their comic stuff as well. Have you done that as well?
So I'm keeping the poetry separate because it's just so different. But like my short stories are all in the same speculative fiction world, and I don't have anything published from them. I did. I'm actually almost done fulfilling my first full-length comic Kickstarter. So,
okay.
Like 85% or something.
Oh, nice.
My copy in the mail today.
Yay!
What was your comic Kickstarter?
It's called Fangs and Foul Play.
Okay. Awesome.
So
right in your name.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll have to check that out later.
How about you? Nick's got a copy right there.
Oh, nice.
Yay.
I forgot that. I don't know how to forgot that.
Let me bring Nick up.
I was so
Nick,
excited.
show
I got
that
comic
again.
books, dude.
Nick, show that
Abby,
again.
is that your art in that book?
No, not
okay.
me. I'm not in Fangs and Foul Play.
Cool. That looks cool.
That looks awesome.
Her style's more like a haunted Dr. Seuss, at least in the comics that we've had.
I'm putting that on all of my resumes from now on.
There you go. How about you, Tara? What's your history? Like, what put you on this path to becoming a comic artist?
I also, a bit like Abby, I come from more of a traditional background, where actually before doing comics, I was actually doing more traditional painting. Actually, I was doing like oil paintings and things like that of nature and more of like you don't see it as much anymore, but I always had an interest in I didn't really know if I could go into comics. I actually was trying to get into animation for a while, so I kind of transitioned over to comics when I realized I just liked doing more of the illustration, but I didn't want to do all the animation. There's just so much with animation. So that was kind of my transition and way to kind of cut a good deal between my illustrator stuff and my animator stuff was to do comics. That was how I made that happen.
Gotcha. And like I always find like if you like animation would be kind of a bore, I think, because like when you actually break down like how animation works, it's like drawing that same character a million times, just going like this, and I think more creative people would rather do like an illustration, where it's like something different. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, animation just takes a lot of time, and I just didn't really have the patience for it.
Yeah.
You're the same person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I was actually not bad at animating, but I was always like, oh, but it takes so much time, and I could just do it faster if I could just do a comic of it than to actually animate it. Because when you're animating, it's 24 frames per second. So that's 24 illustrations for a second.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And if you can shorten that down to be 2 frames per second, so that's 12 frames, but that's still a lot. And
then you run that animation, and all it does is like
going like this, and that's like just like I remember. I think what was it? I think it was about a 30-second like animation I did with some other people, and that took us about a month to completely get it done, animated, colored, sound, and everything. And that was a group of like close to like 5 to 10 people. So it's just like, it's just so time consuming.
It is, yeah. And even with a group, it like takes forever.
It takes a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to another route because I was like, this is just so much better, and just I feel like you can also just kind of tell your story more easily. Like that's another thing with animation is that you always have to be pretty much in a group setting. It's not really just your own project.
It's like making a movie, basically.
Yeah,
It's like you need everybody to do their part to make it a reality, kind of in a comic book. But like I feel like with comic books, like mostly the writer becomes sort of like the project manager, and then like hires everybody in, and then there's exceptions to all of that as well. But like I feel like that's 90% of what happens when a comic gets made, so but this is exciting, and it's good to know how everybody kind of got involved, and like and
Keith, how'd you get involved in the anthology?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Your letterer left or something.
Yeah.
And like within like
I needed a letterer at literally like the 11th hour.
Yes.
And thank God for Keith.
Yeah, Russell doesn't even know this, but like that night before, we were scrambling like crazy trying to get everything in there. Do you remember that, Johnny? What a crazy night
madness.
Was this the first book or the second book?
No, this new
one that just came out.
No.
Yeah, we had.
I say that because I feel like there's 11th hour things that have happened every anthology.
Yeah.
At least 2 of the anthologies. So like, and they're almost always lettering related.
Yeah, Johnny told me he needed a letter basically I think a day before it was due, and then I basically was lettering all day so we could get it in on time, and then we were trying to beat the clock, and then we found out that we still had like 3 hours because of the time difference.
West Coast time.
Yeah.
Shoot. Got me.
But we got it done though. We got it done. I can't wait to see the finished product.
Yeah, that was brutal. The comic that's going to come out in the last anthology, I basically pushed the whole entire thing in about 2 weeks almost.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was like most of it all was completed in about 2 weeks. Even the inking. I just was running really behind because I unfortunately had started a new job before all of this. So I was starting a new job and trying to get the comic done. So it's a
So this is a lesson for editors. You can give 6 months for a book. It does not matter. 80% of your people will start their project a month before it's due. And then and no one here has done this, but many people will then complain that I didn't give them enough time or that I'm asking too much of them. And I'm like, you've had this assignment contracted since March.
Oh yeah.
I don't. So and I mean, I don't know if it's telling tales out of school, but like Eric, was my artist was like massively late, like months late. Like I felt like a hypocrite, but like it's literally the story that carries the anthology. And I was like, Eric, you've been working with me for like 10 years now. Like I'm giving you this pass because the main story. One of the big things that people have told me, the biggest complaint is the covers don't relate to any story inside. So I was like, I'm gonna fix it this time. Like, I'll do an 8-page story about Cthulhu wrestling Zeus, which is the cover is like Cthulhu.
Yeah, definitely. I'll bring up the Kickstarter in a few minutes so we take a look at that awesome artwork.
I was gonna say, Abby and LK, did you guys mention that you had an 11th hour crisis in the last 2 books as well?
In the first one, we had to re-letter.
The
second one we had a
when I said a lot of editing
conversion.
issues, a lot of lettering issues. That's like I was not. There's a lot of lettering issues in this series.
Yeah.
Well, and it kind of makes sense. Like if we're hitting the early deadlines of like when the art's due and all that, then that's already approved. So there's not going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there shouldn't be.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, and a lot of you guys are doing this for the first time, right? Or like. Or, maybe it's a second or third time, but it's like it's still hectic, especially when a deadline comes into it and you're not used to having one,
Well, yeah, and lettering is such a lettering is such a fine art. Like
it is.
Can make everything look way better or worse than it has any and so like they put their story in, and I was like, this art's good, but like, what is lettering? Like, what is? And it's not to bring them out. Like it happens a lot. Christmas. Like it happens a lot.
Russell was like, the lettering is awful, and I was like, oh, cool, great.
Yeah, on Christmas. so like this is when I learned to never have a letter deadline on New Year's, because the one time I did it, like everyone was like the same thing happened. Everyone started in December, and I was like, and then they would be like, I have Christmas, and I'm like, I feel really bad because like I know they're all working on New Year's Eve. I know they're all doing it. So like I just like I'm never gonna have a deadline on that, because even if I had like a year, they still would have started it at that time. And it's really hard because I've toyed a lot of times with having one letter for the whole story, all of the stories for consistency. But like there are certain artists where the lettering is so integral to how their art style, like their hand lettering, or like I'm like, well, I would literally take away from this story that if I like made them follow the template of the rest of the books. And if I can't just let one person have their own template, that will be weird. So like I kind of have to let everyone have their template. Whereas like Travis Gibb, whenever he does anthologies, he just has Jerome letter all of it, which is like great for like, it keeps consistency at the sake of like making things look kind of uniform in maybe not always in a good way. Like I think his anthologies are great, but like it can lead to uniformity in like a bad way. And there's plenty of
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So it's just hard to break that balance. And I think the reason we have such lettering issues is like it's really easy to look at art and be like, yes, you're approved. Yes, you're approved. Yes, you're approved. Approved. But like it's a lot harder to have those fully lettered pages and know what the lettering is going to look like, because so often lettering is like farmed out. So you just don't know.
Right. And sloppy lettering definitely ruins the reading experience, like, and I imagine this is tough too, because on this anthology, you're dealing with monsters and stuff. So usually the lettering has to kind of reflect that. So you have like kind of funky monster lettering and, you know, like
I have a really
weird
funny
word balloons and things like that, you know?
It's actually a really funny story about lettering, and Nick's story since he's here.
Oh.
So my wife, so the first thing, the first panel of Nick's story, there's a panel where like the big monster is holding the Uriel, the angel, and he's like, "You are nothing," and then the nothing is like the monster font that like, so no, you're nothing. And my wife is like, I don't understand what is happening here. The person just says, I am. And then this other person is speaking for a long time. And I was like, no, you have to read that. I was like, he's saying, you are nothing. I was like, because she wasn't reading the book. She wasn't holding the book up. So I was like, I don't understand. Like, I would not, did I like do a whole thing and like forget the lettering? Like, did I somehow undo this piece of lettering? So I look at it and I was like, he says, I am nothing. He's like Uriel says something and then the monster says, you are nothing. And then Uriel responds and she's like, oh, I totally didn't read nothing because like, it's not in the bubble.
Oh, gotcha. So she thought that was like a title kind of like, or something.
I think she just thought it was a piece of art just in the art. Like, I don't know, but like, yeah, but it's very
Nick,
hard.
What do you have to say for yourself?
Yeah, how dare you?
Nick?
What I'm gathering from that is that Erin Tomstedt, the artist, she's so fucking great that even her lettering looks like art.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, like sometimes lettering is an art. You know, it is part of the story. Like you know, like a letterer should have a background in graphic arts. You know, just to know, you know, negative and positive space. Just that aspect of it. You know?
I feel like I should give Abby a compliment since we talked about the lettering. Is like she's very, very good at leaving space for lettering, like and also making it interesting, not just a blank canvas behind it. Like so often you'll have people that do not. And Kara is also good at this as well, but like I didn't just insult Abby's letter. I didn't just insult Kara's lettering for like 2 minutes. So like I feel like I need to specifically put out Abby because like it was like I love how she leaves negative space in panels. Like there's so much.
That's huge.
Like the way that and like lettering or no, like there are panels where I'm just like, this is just such a beautiful panel. And you often, when you're leaving like a lot of space for lettering, like the panel is just kind of like luffed off. It's just like a white background or something. But like, I love how she makes like room for everything, but also then makes it a piece of art as well.
Right. Yeah. Kara. Yeah. I got to say it was real easy lettering your artwork because I didn't have to think a lot about where I'm putting things because, you know, Johnny did have a decent amount of dialogue, but it was, you know, I was able to not have to contact him and say, hey, Johnny, can you edit this? You know, because
Karen did a great job of just putting the placeholders in place. And let me tell you, this last volume is one of my most wordy and the one I struggled with the most. And, you know, it got scaled back so much based upon what the first draft was. And Kara and Russell can, you know, attest to that. But, you know, Karen did a great job of making the space for the stuff that, you know, we were able to put in there, you know.
A lot of space, and that first pass did not have room. Like we were me and Chris were like, you have so many words here, and none of them make sense. Like some of them seem to make sense, but like not in the order that you meant them to be. So like, and it ended up. I love how the story ended up. But yeah, that first pass, I think like the bad guys won in the first pass and it wasn't nebulous or anything. Like it was a real bummer of a story. Like the whole world, I think, like exploded or something. Like it was not like I'm not saying that love has to be a feel good thing. But like I remember just being like, can you put some hope? I'm not saying the good guys have to win. But like does it have to be so oppressively bleak? I remember. I don't know if it was that story or another story, but like
hey, that could have been in the second one.
That was the second
that was the second
one. The second one was very bleak.
The second one's dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is Cthulhu, so you kind of you can probably get a little bit of leeway if you wanted to be bleak, I guess.
Yeah.
I love that I had to do a lot of extensive research on such an obscure god, Hastur. Russell gave me such a wonderful character to work with there as a placeholder for what was the devil in the original story. So
did anyone work in Herbert West at all? Like, I'm curious. Like, I know.
No, not that.
Like, I love the re-animator.
I had scientists in the first story. Like the first story was like the inadvertent summoning of the elder god, and we ended with the blade of Royale being shattered, and a bunch of scientists in the lab. The Pope was in the room, and they all get blasted away, which I thought was
It's making a lot more sense the first story now that you're saying that stuff.
Herbert West was referenced in the second book. It was in a poster in the background. The boys are going to a movie theater, and I referenced it really far back there. Unfortunately, I always have a bad habit of like zooming in so much that when I zoom out, you don't quite see the actual posters that I put in way too much time, because I'll like do that in another Photoshop file, and then I'll just post it in, and it's just like, oh, now that's tiny. Oh well.
Yeah.
Another fun fact: Kara actually snuck in the background of our story all the covers of all the previous anthologies.
Yeah,
we didn't notice that until we didn't notice that Monsters was in the background in the poster of the room of our characters until months after the book came out. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I did it this time too, right? This time
you put them all in the back, right?
Yeah, they're in the background. Yeah, there's posters. I really wish I could have had the cover for this one in it, but I was like, oh well, I'll get the Monsters in there, the poster for that one.
That's
awesome.
Cool the detail that Carol does with her stories. Now I have to give a positive thing, because I think I did just like talk about their stuff. Like, they were so willing to change. Like, I've very rarely worked with an artist who is so far along on a story. And I was like, we need some pretty like major changes to this story. And like, I was like, I wonder if this is going to be a problem. And like I think Johnny was like, I'll talk to Kara. And like the next day they're like, yep, we're going to do them. I was like, that's awesome, because I really, 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 really thought that was not, because there was not like that much to the deadline for those last pages. So like they really were, they went way far and beyond to give me like inks or something at like the sketch stage or something, and then they really like changed it. And like that part of, to me, that like shows like a true artist who just wants to do the best for the story, even if it means like making like a lot of
concessions. Yeah, definitely.
But it was a great change.
Was it changed from the original story too?
Yeah, the original story was how to open the gates of hell, and then it became how to summon the Dark Lord Hatsor. And basically it went from a devil creature coming out of the earth and all to this creature of Hatsor now coming out of the St. Louis Ark. And I had to come up with the design for what our version of Hatsor would be. I think I basically came up with that in just a couple hours. Like, I seriously went from like, oh yeah, that was the
that's cool.
Yeah, what's the first one? I always
the first one he's coming out of the same.
Oh yeah, that was the first one. Yeah, that was the first one right there.
One thing that we did that's unique with our story is that our title page was always the last page on every single one, and it was always the last line of dialogue was the title. And so we it was cool, but we also set these rules that backed ourselves into a corner.
Yeah,
and now had to like abide by. You know what I mean?
So, since you guys are talking about it, I'd love to hear from everybody here. Like, what's the basic storyline for yours, Johnny? Like,
so mine is basically the first story is the inadvertent summoning of the Dark Lord Hastur through inconsequential events that all kind of happen in in succession with one another. The second one is, and that's a dark story. That's kind of like almost like Tales from the Crypt, where you're reading it and next thing you know, oh my God, dark twist. The second one is very comedic. I wanted to do something completely different, like the way Alien and Aliens are two different kind of tones. This is the same thing where the second one's comedic. It's Hastur being summoned to Earth as this big monster, but because he only has like one follower on Earth, he like doesn't have power, so he shrinks down to his Yellow King form, and he's kind of menial, and he like was marching down the street with like trying to gain a religion, trying to build a religion and get followers when so he can be powerful once again. And I think he inadvertently discovers the internet, and that's where it takes off from there. And then the third one continues directly off that one where Hastur's in power, and we took some characters from the first story that actually they appear in the second one too in brief, but and we made them the heroes, and they overthrow him through a game of chance of cards.
Yeah, it looked like they were using magic cards or something.
Yeah, it was a lot of magic and Yu-Gi-Oh references.
Kind of like Stranger Things or something. That's what I was.
Very Stranger Things.
I was
the first panel of the first story of mine was 100% inspired by Stranger Things.
Very cool. How about you, Tim? What's the gist of your contribution to the anthology?
Our short story. It's an 8-pager called "The
Do
Error
not spoil
of the
the
Last...
end.
Right,
I will. The end of your story.
Wait, how was that?
Yeah,
thanks for saying that.
Just give me,
Johnny just spoiled the end of his story, so not make everyone spoil the end of their stories.
Gotcha. So I'll give you sort of the 1,000-foot view. Which the assignment was it's a 70s retro sci-fi take on a Lovecraftian tale, and here it takes the form of 3 mysterious monks summon an elder god during a polar event. And I don't want to say any much more than that, but it definitely has the feel of, if you like, by any chance that you like Heavy Metal magazine.
Okay, yeah,
love it.
It's sort of like it's a very rendered style of illustration, and it has sort of the feel of it has what I call a little bit of a 70s feel.
Oh,
nice.
Cool.
Metal,
kind of like a European kind of feel too, or like
very much so, and to a certain extent, we even try to do that with the lettering, and for example, the dialogue and so forth between the monks is kind of interesting, and the characters, I think, and it was terrific fun to write it too. I'll tell you an interesting trivia about the story. I was originally lined up with. I do a lot of writing with a guy by the name of Erwin Arosa. He's one of my main guys, and he does kind of this hand-painted style and this dramatic coloring and stuff that's just out of this world, right? Well, he objected to the supernatural content, right? And at first I like drew a blank. We said, well, because he's Christian, and it was like a depiction of the occult. And of course, the way I wrote it was pretty occult sounding too. So I right away I was like, oh yeah, of course, man. Like I hadn't considered that perspective, but of course we realized that kind of thing's out there, and I respect that, of course. So, but what happened was this great thing, because then I reached out. I really wanted to try the anthology, and I went into this with the direct instruction that I wanted to try anthologies for this year, and have had some success with that, by the way. But
good.
I wanted to find another artist right away that could sort of deliver this sort of compelling style, right? And I reached out and I found this Brazilian guy by the name of Renan Shoddy, and he has been such a terrific partner for me. We kept going, and he's on the next 2 Water Wars books. We've done something like probably 40 more pages. And yeah, it was one of those, when you meet the correct creative person, the right things sort of start to happen, right? And
that's true.
Lightning struck for us, I think, on this story. And it's something where I sometimes make the example, I'm a musician, and if you have the right drummer and the right bass player and the right, if you put the right ingredients, it's all going to sound right.
Well, yeah, that's what I find with comics. Definitely.
He also did the theme song. He also is.
I wasn't going to say anything about that. I didn't know if that was your.
It's on the page, like
okay.
There's a theme song too, and one of the other.
Play it based on your first thing. Like you can play it when you. It's on the page. It's on the. You can listen.
Oh,
we get to the page. Yeah,
definitely have to check that out.
It's really fun. I hope you guys dig it, and that had a fun instruction too. It was I love the instructions basically when we start these projects, and this one was from Russell, and it was a ska flavored Monster Mash. Silly, spooky werewolf bar mitzvah, and and right away I instantly knew what all the references were. I was like, werewolf bar mitzvah. This is going to be fun to even work on. And in this case, I do write with a songwriting partner. His name's Sterling Jackson, and in this case, he did most of the work. my initial idea was like have some horns and stuff. I was going the other direction with the ska, and his is more guitar driven. And man, I loved it from when I heard the very first notes. So in this case, I wrote the words. There's lyrics to this song as well, and it was terrific fun even making that, because he kind of delivers it with this sort of like an affected British accent. Sterling's from Florida. He's not British, but he can do these sort of clever and humorous voices, right? And I felt it was.
Yeah, kind of like the beginning of Monster Mash, if you know that thing. And like I was at the movie, I was in the mall at Christmas time when he sent it to me, and I laughed for like, I listened to it like 5 times, sent it to everyone I knew. I sent it to Chris, and I was like, you gotta listen to this. It's like, it's so dumb, and I mean it in the most wonderful way.
Yeah. Well, you gave great instructions, right? That's one of the small things we do. And I'll just give a quick shout out here. I get some of these ideas right from Russell. This is from one of the Kickstarter courses, to try and develop things that can be delivered in a digital format, because that's one of my categories that's increasing. So I'm trying to focus on it. And one of our things is
it's an added value, you know.
You're right. It's a perceived value. And we're songwriters, so we come by it naturally. So in this case, what we do is we write the Kickstarter theme.
where they have like a whole album, like part of it, you know what I mean?
Right. Like Matt Knowles and the Heirs of Isildur, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Ezra Gale does a great one, The Year Goggles. And by the way, I love that stuff. But you know, my path is I'm trying to be a writer, of course, and you know.
You don't want to get
so.
Yeah, right.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
You don't want to get
Tim
too far away from what the purpose of what you're trying to do. Yeah, definitely.
He does write theme songs for other creators as well for their Kickstarters.
Cool.
And he's very good and easy to work with.
Nice.
Thanks, Ross.
Awesome.
Yeah. Look forward to it. So, but I'll just wrap it up. I'll wrap it up here. Our story, of course, is sort of like, and I imagine that, you know, there's probably a couple that have done that, but it's sort of the more sci-fi take. Generally speaking, I'm sort of known to be the sci-fi fella. That's what my other titles are. And, you know, that's sort of the flavor, and that's what I'm sort of running with. So it was an honor to participate in the project. I had such a terrific time. And I'll speak directly. I've had a bit of a professional bump from it already, and the book hasn't even come out yet. So, you know, just thanks for the opportunity, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. And how about you, Nick? What's the gist of your contribution?
Well, the story is called The Endless Fight, and it's about Uriel, the archangel, who's been given the job by God to come to Earth and clean up the mess of all of the elder gods and Lovecraftian terror that's on Earth. So he's
also, you don't spoil your ending either.
So the way it ends,
these two happen to have like the two of the best twists of the whole freaking book. So I want to make sure they don't like spoil the ending of the story.
Yeah, the ending is awesome. Okay, guys, just
I will say, like,
just so you know.
So Nick, so I tell people all the time, do not ask me for 8 pages. I'm not giving you 8 pages. And like Nick asked for 8 pages, despite the fact that I told him that, and I was like, I didn't tell him this, but I was like, he better fucking deliver a story. He better fucking deliver. He better make 8 pages worth it. Because like 8 pages means it takes 2 people's spots. Like if I can do a 6 or 2, but like an 8 is like, that's 1 full spot. Like I can't give it to anyone else. And he nailed it. He nailed the story. In fact, he nailed both of the stories. Like that he did the previous one and this one. The other one is like such like a cool. It reminds me of like an old Tales of Terror like art style, even with like how they did the coloring. And like this one is just, it's really cool. Like once people read it, they can ask me why I think it's cool. But like there's a very specific reason that I think that it's cool that I can't tell you because it will ruin the surprise. And I know because I've been trying to talk about that next specific story and to the specific story, and I'm like, it's really good. It's a good one.
Russell, what's the elevator pitch for the
4 pages? 4 pages only for the second volume, and I was like, "Fuck, okay."
It's hard. It's hard to condense the story.
Hard. That's
I didn't know people like Johnny could get away with more.
Well, Johnny, you know, he's a bully. Like he got in there. He gets right.
I would have tried that. I'd be like, you know, I could do 6.
Yeah, right. You just submit it.
See, here's the thing: is Nick abandoned me, and Johnny stayed with me, and
oh man,
go!
Whoa! Royalty rewarded.
Shots fired.
I'm with you
Awesome.
to the end, Captain.
And so Russell, I was going to ask, what's the elevator pitch for your story for this volume?
Cthulhu versus Zeus in a wrestling match for the end of the universe.
Oh, I like
Control
that.
of the universe, and it takes
I like
place
that.
across the beginning, the middle, and end of the book. So there's 3 different turns of it, and it was really fun to. Eric really like went into like figuring out what the costumes were that would be like costumes that like certain wrestlers would wear, and like Mills Lane may or not have been modeled as like the main like person in the middle, and like we used just techniques and like names of things that like if you're not a wrestling fan, like you'll like it because like a big silly story. And if you are a wrestling fan, you'll appreciate it because like we do all sorts of things that they would do in wrestling, like the chair, like the chair that like lets the tag team come in, and like the way that like even how people talk and like the announcers talk. And so yeah, it's like basically becomes a big tag team act between all the Lovecraft gods versus all the mythological gods with the stake of the universe on the line.
I love it. And LK or Abby, I know you guys work together. What's the elevator pitch for your story?
So I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. It's how would I say it in a sentence? I had to write it up, when we submitted it, and now I don't have it anywhere.
It doesn't have to be one sentence. You can give me like a paragraph if you want.
Can I try?
Yeah.
I drew a really stressed out kid getting more stressed out.
I'll tell you, there's one panel that maybe that haunted Dr. Seuss comes from. There's that one panel where the guy has this very elongated frown on his face, and I was like, that's the most Seussian thing I've ever seen anyone ever do in the whole history of anything.
Does that help at all, Leanne?
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I was thinking about it, kind of the thing that happens in both the second and the third is that things get progressively worse in both stories. So for our main characters, they just get worse and worse and worse.
So your story is like Johnny's, where it continues from volume to volume?
It doesn't, but
it
doesn't technically, but our story in the second volume makes a little appearance.
Reference.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And the one in the second one is so good. It's so funny. I mean, the one in this one is also very funny and good, but like that second one, it's House Hunters Apocalypse Edition. And it's like they go from house to house and like slowly worsening houses as you go through. It's so good.
That sounds like when me and my wife were looking for a house like back in 2010. It sounds like you guys chronicled that. But no, that's awesome. So, and I know Kara worked on it with Johnny, so we already know that storyline. But I want to take a look at the actual campaign here.
Now, the campaign's made so much headway in such a short amount of time. I think it's actually a record number. We were talking a little bit before the show.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you guys are killing it. This is awesome.
Yeah, so
Go
this
ahead, Johnny.
is the most we've ever raised in the first week of a campaign before. And the most backers we've had at this point in a campaign. And we're I'm very thrilled. It's so great because you just don't know. The last one didn't go quite how I expected. I invested way more money than the first volume, and we made way less money than the first volume. And like, that's not how you want these things to go.
Right. Yeah.
So this one, I was just ready to I put it all on the line. Like I was talking at another appearance where people were like, did you have to cut? And I was like, eventually we got to a place where I was like, these are the people that would be too painful to cut. And I don't care that it's the biggest book we've ever done in the Lovecraft thing. Like, I want all these people because like this is the last one that I'm going to be editing. And so I feel like Chris and I, because this is our last book in the Cthulhu book. As far as I know, it will be the last one that we do. We wanted it to just be as like awesome as humanly possible, with as many great stories as humanly possible. And I think we accomplished that, if for no other reason than like we packed it bigger than any other book we've ever done.
That's awesome. Just looking through this looks fantastic.
Yeah, I love this wonderful cover, and it's a big shout out to the cover artist too. Russell, can you speak to that a little bit?
So Aaron Alexovich has done our covers all the way back to Monsters and Other Scary Shit for the anthologies, and he is he's a Invader Zim artist. So earlier I said people said Lovecraft and Invader Zim. He'd worked on character designs for Invader Zim. He also happens to be the artist who's drawn the comic that I love the most in the whole world, Serenity Rose. So it was a huge thrill to work with him, and he has put together some amazing covers. And I knew this cover before we did 2. I knew what I wanted on the cover. What I said was I want Cthulhu like suplexing or just doing something wrestling wise to Zeus, and that's what he came up with, and it's so great.
So you got 75 creators and 34 stories, 180 pages. That's fantastic. Let me just take a quick look at some of the artwork and as we scroll through here. So is this a kind of like a slideshow of everybody involved?
It's a slide show, but you can also get it by scrolling. I did it both ways. So.
Oh, you did it. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Let me take a quick look.
Some interior pages. There's the signature story we talked about. The series arc. A little bit below is the theme song.
Oh, really?
The next thing is the theme song.
Okay.
Theme song. Here we go.
All right. Let's hear.
Let's fire it up.
Oh, nice.
Now, some will do things poorly, and some will do things well, but everybody still can agree that Cthulhu is hard to spell. The monster chased me off the porch and down the back stairwell. I broke my brain when I tried to explain Cthulhu is hard to spell. As the beast approached me, I began to scream and yell. But when asked to write what I saw that night, Cthulhu was hard to spell. It grabbed me by the short hairs, threw me around like a carousel. But still I thought, while we fought, Cthulhu was hard to spell. Yes, I fear I might never be all right, but Cthulhu is hard to spell.
I think the rest of it's instrumental, so.
Oh, is it? That's great.
Awesome.
Great job.
I hadn't heard that yet. That is awesome. I love that.
Definitely Monster Mash and Werewolf Bar Mitzvah. You can definitely see that in film.
Yeah, I have to repeat. It's really the assignments are much easier if you
have a reference.
Yeah, a clear vision of what you are trying to work toward. And the great thing about Russell's instruction here is even the both of us even had like a little bit of comedy experience too. And it was we kind of jumped into it and just had fun with it. And I think when you can hear it, you can kind of hear the fun almost, you know?
Yeah, no, great job.
I think the series is very much like a fun satire-y kind of like
so like the song kind of like
so it's in the same way that we like kind of satirize and also like are reverential to like Monster Mash and like Werewolf Bar Mitzvah, but it's kind of the same. So like he just nailed it. And these are all the pins that you can get. Like the middle one is the World Conqueror one is the one for this campaign. So you can pick any
these all enamels.
Yeah.
I love the new pin, Russell. The championship belt. That's awesome.
I was so bummed that the championship.
This is cool. I like this one.
Yeah, so the ones around the edges are all 2-inch enamel, and then the ones in the top are hard enamel, and then the ones at the top are soft enamel, except for the beehive one, which is a 1-inch hard enamel.
Very cool.
Yes.
So
we're really bummed we couldn't do an actual belt, but it was just too expensive to do like the actual belt.
Yeah. I could see that. So here's some of the stories in the anthology.
That's Christian Gossett. So Christian Gossett was artist on the Red Star. If you guys remember that indie book. I know Nick does because he freaked out when so this is his first. So this series is his first comic work since the Red Star in 2003. So we're really excited to get him.
Christian Gossett is the argument for why a writer and artist should be one person, because he's so freaking good, and the marriage of art and words is never better than.
I remember that book. It's been I was wondering what happened to that guy. So that's cool that you got him.
He went in to do animation and other things. And then this is Emily, Emily and Heather. Emily is 15. She's
cool.
so talented. Tara and Kang, new to the anthology. James Maddox is a artist who is a writer who works a lot with Webtoon and did this book called The Dead with Rye Hickman, which is just amazing. Andrea Gonzalez is new. Andrea and Diane are brand new, but I love her style. Yeah. So she actually did the timeline and some other work for a God's Verse series coming out. That's Mary Bellamy. She's back. Her style is so wonderful,
so cute, like a cute style. Like
there's what I was talking about Abby's style. You can see.
I like that, Abby.
Yeah,
I like that frown. Very Charlie Brown, like very Schultz,
Yeah, I love that.
That's Trina Robbins and Leonie O'Moore. So Trina is the first woman to draw Wonder Woman. And
cool.
And Leonie did this wonderful story, which is like done with like a romance. But if you're a romance story with Cthulhu, it's so great. Nathan Luth did this one. This one is Tolkien versus Lovecraft.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Brandy and Carolyn are back from a previous anthology, and I love the satire thing that they did. It's so good. This one is a lot sadder. Eddie Headington died during the course of this production of this. So Eddie, this book's dedicated to him, and Vanessa and Claire, we tried to do as best we could to honor his memory. It was very hard without we couldn't do any corrections. So
gotcha. And then this is just people that have bought the books.
It's mostly the first one. We had a lot of people that give love to the first one. The second one, it was the pandemic, so people were thinking about sending. I didn't ask people to send pictures of the second one. I figured they had better things on their mind.
Johnny, you said these books are often big sellers for you at shows, right?
This book stops people in their tracks when they see it at my table. And, the arrangement I have with Kara is that it's a 50-50 collaboration. So when I sell a book, I'll send her a check, and she knows, or, PayPal, and she knows it's every show I go to, just about, I'm always selling out. I'm always buying several boxes from Russell. It's a very popular book. People love it.
Awesome.
That's everyone who backs for $1 or above gets this paper toy designed by Andrew Pauly.
Love those.
Yeah, we have one for each campaign, and they have a different shirt on.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. And then does it show any of the other stories if we keep going?
If you keep scrolling. There's a lot to go through in this book. There's the cover.
To just highlight all the stories at least,
We've only gone through 12 of the 34 stories.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Mind Trap by Donnie and Patrick, new creators to me.
Cool.
This is N.S. Kane, who came back. She does a lot of kind of sexy stories usually, but this was a super fun one. Justin Peniston is an artist as a writer that I've wanted to work with for a long time. He does the book Hunter Black. And Dan is Dan's great. This story's awesome. Camry Lapka drew our book Black Market Heroine last year, and she just has this wonderful kind of style.
This artwork is fantastic.
Kelsey does
very storybook.
Kelsey does sapphic monster art. Nude sapphic monster art, and I love her stories so much. That's what I was talking about. This "You Are Nothing." Karen had no idea how to read that. She just thought he was talking to himself.
This is Nick. This looks great.
Yeah, it's freaking
you
awesome.
should see the rest of it.
Yeah, I'll definitely see it once I get a copy from Johnny. I'll definitely check it out.
This is Dee Parson, who has a few comic strips, pretty popular comic strip, Rosebuds. A Life with Karami, and then Pen and Ink, and then Elias is his writer. Claire Leslie has been in all 3 of our anthologies, and her style is like unfairly beautiful. Like you should not be able to make art this
Dan
beautiful
Barrett.
and be in comics.
Beautiful.
It looks like Dan Barrett in a lot, you know, he used to do those awesome monster covers.
Yeah, but this is like sequential art. Like every panel looks like that. It's so beautiful.
So
it's
awesome.
Yeah.
I love seeing her work every time.
I love Angela's work ever since being introduced to Angela as an artist through this series. She's a bucket list artist to work with. I just don't have the right story yet, but Angela's awesome.
She's great. I love Angela. She's one of my favorite artists and favorite people. JD, this is he took one of his characters from his novel work and he brought it into
that's
his
cool.
comics. So, and Eric Drew and Micah Myers lettered. Kathleen Abelos Bean is another one of my favorite LA artists. Like and this is her sister drew this piece. So I love them. They used to be very good friends on the con circuit. Nick Torres is our artist he originally designed our B, and then Holly Interlati is an artist a writer that I've known for a very long time. Jamie Primack, just a beautiful book called Binary Star. Binary Star is so pretty. It's like an old, it's like an old Gothic horror story, but instead it's in space. Shannon Kirkwood. Shannon Kirkwood called me intimidating when I first met her. That's neither here nor there. Her art is beautiful, but like I'll never forget that. I asked her again, and she's like, "Yes, I still find you intimidating." Recently, so
weird.
Fabrice Sapolsky is this is his first comic book art, but he co-created Spider-Man Noir.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Jessica Mason is coming back for she had a story in the last one, and I don't know where she found this Anna person. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce her last name because I will butcher it, but so beautiful. You can see
and then
Kara and Johnny's
Johnny.
I love that particular frame. I love it's all great, but like that particular frame is just like so great. Like I wish it could be a little plush doll.
That is great, Kara. That came out awesome.
Thanks.
And then Tim's story.
Oh, yeah.
You can see the art. It looks beautiful. I don't want to say anything because if I say anything about it, I feel like I'm going to spoil this story and like don't want to do that.
Got to read the story.
So, looking forward to reading it, Tim.
Tim,
Thank
that
you,
looks
guys.
good. Yeah, that
Thank
looks
you very
really
much.
Good, Tim. I love this cartoony one too.
Yeah, so so if you back this week, you get the first 5 Lands of Tunes by this art team, and this is a Lands of Tunes joint. They did it in there. So this is their big. Haley, Andrew, and Kevin had this big this is their world.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Katrina Kunstman is they are one of my favorite artists, and this is a continuation of the story they made the last anthology.
Oh, cool.
Dan and Frank are back with a short story about Pandora. Like that art style is so sick. I love it so much. I believe they missed the last one, but they were in the first one. And then David Pepos, who is the artist, who is the writer for Savage Avengers and Moon Knight that are coming out, is the writer. And then Man House is with DC Hopkins lettering, did the last story. And
he also did Spencer and Locke, Keith.
Yes.
Spencer and Locke and Going to the Chapel and
Oz,
Scout's Honor. That's all of it. That's all of it. That's
everyone.
So you can look at these are the other books with their things, and
you could get those as add-ons if this is the first time you're seeing this. Correct?
Yep.
Awesome.
And so Russell, if you had to point out a tier that you'd say that was the best one to back with, as much stuff as you can get, what would you recommend people?
Okay, so
what's a sweet spot?
If you haven't read the book before, then the 120 tier will get you all 3 books, the pin, and the theme song. If you have read it before, then $60 will get you the pin, the book, the theme song, and the ebook. And then if you're brand new and you don't want to spend $500 to get all of our stuff, there's a pledge that's $200 to get all of our books. There's it's like $100 to get all of our graphic books or all of our ebooks, and then there's for $60 you get all 3 of our anthologies, all 3 of the Cthulhu anthologies, along with audio commentary. So I do audio commentary on every book, and you get the audio commentary and all the ebooks. And if you get it the $120 or $60 tier, you also get audiobooks, the audio commentary. Cool. So I like doing the audio commentary. It's like I flip through and I tell stories about why we place stuff there and everything. It's really fun. I get to have a little party with myself about why I did all of the stuff and try and remember a year ago when we did all these things.
There's the link in the chat to back this project. It looks great. This looks awesome. And I've seen the books in person, because I see Johnny at a ton of shows. So I've seen volume 1 and 2, look through them very often, all the time. And they're great quality hardcovers. And I can see why you guys sell them hand over fist, it's a good subject matter. And what would you say the rating on this is? Russell?
So there's no blood, sex, or violence you wouldn't see on Saturday morning television. I think it's appropriate for, I think it's all ages appropriate, but I certainly don't think that all ages would understand it.
Gotcha.
That's the difference. Is what's really cool about this story and I've seen this. I don't know if anyone else who's been in the anthology and sold it before has seen this, but what's really cool is we've now been doing this anthology since 2018. So that's enough time for a 4-year-old to get to be an 8-year-old, an 8-year-old to get to be a 12-year-old, and you can see them and they people will tell me their favorite story when they were 5 is much different than the story than they were 9, and so it kind of be organically. I did not plan this, but because there's so many styles and so many themes and so many different ways to do a story in the book, people can latch on to maybe the early reader stories now, but then when they're first reader, they'll find different things that keep pulling off the piece. That's not to say that if you show a kid some of these stories, it won't scare the crap out of them, because there's some haunting art in the thing. But if you're worried about violence or
to be scared. It probably appeal to kids that like Goosebumps and R.L. Stine and things like that.
Yeah, I mean it's hard because we don't get them rated, so I can only tell you what my fans would say, and they'd probably say 8 or above. I specifically made
PG-13, maybe PG-13.
I specifically made it so that you could show it. It was made to be something you could show to somebody else to indoctrinate them into the madness. So
Gotcha.
The first volume has the origin story, and it has a lot of my story is Azathoth, and so you learn a lot of the mythology, the basic of the mythology in the first book. So it's meant to be palatable to anyone. But you can't really make a Lovecraft book without some haunting stories. You just can't do it.
When you mention Lovecraft, you need certain elements or certain elements you're expecting in a book.
What's really cool is Eddie Headington, R.I.P., did a cool Lovecraftian YA story in the first book. There's maybe it was the second book, but he did. So there's a lot of cool ways that we get into it, and I think that because it's an anthology, we took the opportunity to have very different reading styles and different Johnny's. Nick and Tim's are probably one reading style, and Abby and LK's is a simpler reading style, and then Angela is a very, very simple reading style. So it's going to appeal to different people. For instance, I'm 40. I prefer a lighter reading style. I don't like Alan Moore. I don't like his work. I'm sorry. I don't like the art stuff Warren Ellis that has a lot of text in it. Brian Bendis, it scares me off. But some people, as Tim and you mentioned, Keith, like love that kind of stuff. And like, so it's not just it's going to appeal to like a certain age group. It's like certain people. And my wife loves that stuff. The more words on a page and the longer something is, the better. I want you to get to the point.
I like a little bit of both myself. Like,
yes.
you know.
So like if you have a kid who like is very verbose and likes reading a lot of likes reading in depth like my wife does, like they're gonna probably like one kind of thing. If you have an older kid who likes like more like Brian K. Vaughan's more like subtle style of writing, they're gonna like that one. But what I can say is there's no sex, there's no naughty language. Despite the fact that many people, some on this call, tried to sneak dirty language into the book, there is no dirty language.
We actually had a pretty provocative scene in our first story too that we had to trim back. The skirt went up a little too high. I'd say.
Yeah, someone on this call may or may not have tried to have a nude monster in the book. So we have to do a lot of like of censorship for that thing, not because I think that there's anything wrong with it, but because I want someone to be like,
just hearing
this to my
that.
4-year-old.
Right. It's just hearing that. I would say PG is probably a solid rating. You know, fact that you curated that stuff.
We're like an 80s PG. Probably.
And
now PG is very different than an 80s PG.
Yeah,
so like,
true.
You know,
True.
Something that you're going to be able to enjoy with your kid and hopefully be able to, or anyone else. Like, it's not just kids. What people said they wanted was Lovecraft is a very high bar to entry. I know many of you have tried to read Lovecraft's work, like the source material of Lovecraft's work. It is a very high bar to entry because he's very dense and he's also very vague at somehow the same time. So like the color of purple will be like, it's an indescribable purple. Now let me talk for 5 pages about this couch. And you're like, I want to know about the color. And so that is the kind of like thing that you deal with in Lovecraft's work. And like, he'll put a piece of mythology in one story and that's it. And like, if you haven't read that one story, you don't know that there's a god there. Like, and he'll never mention it again for 50, however. So like, it's a pretty high bar to entry to like understand the mythos. And what I wanted to do is be like, if you read this, you will enjoy yourself and you will understand the mythos so that when you're reading the Lovecraft books and they mention a god, you'll be like, hey, I remember Orna Numqua. Weren't they a marriage counseling in that book? Oh, they must be like a couple as much as Lovecraft can makes couples. Or like, you know, there's a story of like Shub-Niggurath, who's like the Black Goat of the Woods, and like she's like the motherly one. So like there's a story of like, you know, her showing all of her kids, and you're like, you see that and you're like, oh, I remember who that is. I make that connection and it like stays. So that's our hope is we lower the bar to entry for Lovecraft's work.
Yeah, trying to get like that new reader that might be interested in horror, you know, like a kid kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, and just someone who loves mythology and wants more.
Definitely. Just wanted to go to the chat here real quick and then we'll start wrapping up here. Roger Morocco said, hey, Johnny, make sure Keith pays you for that book. Good old Morocco.
Keith worked in it. I can at least give him a copy. Come on.
Or at least let me see it, you know?
Yeah, let him touch the book at least.
North Free said, as a Cthulhu fan, this looks pretty sweet. So
that means a lot.
Backer here. Yeah. My wife is, I don't know what she's talking about, our Euclidean Geometrics PG. I don't know what that means. That's over my head, whatever that's
some highbrow business right there.
It is. Awesome. So let me share this link out one more time. Usually when we wrap up, because we've been going almost an hour and 45 minutes, which is crazy. So we usually try to shoot for an hour here. So there's the link to the campaign. What I'd like to do is go around the room real quick and you know, just tell the audience where people can find you. Like if you're on social media, if you have a website you want to plug, that's, you know, not the anthology or, you know, anything, you know, for yourself personally. We'll start with you, Tim.
My name's Timothy Fling. I'm on Facebook. That's my most useful method lately, it seems like, to be following the books. I also have a website that's Earth Dog Studios.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter also and Instagram, but I think the best way to follow me lately is I'm on Kickstarter. You can look me up by looking for the Water Wars.
Water Wars. Okay, great. We'll check that out.
And thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming on the show and joining us. Nick, tell us what you got going on.
Well, if you go to thekidandtheripper.com, you're going to find my Kickstarter until 9 a.m. tomorrow. You can find me on Instagram at Nick and the Kid and the Ripper. And I'm on Twitter. I'm Shocker Batman. And I would also just like to say, I didn't realize it at first, but the nude monster, Russell, you're talking about me.
No.
No?
No.
Oh, so there's more than one.
He knows who I'm talking about.
Wow.
That's
Yeah, 'cause
awesome.
mine was tasteful.
How about you, Russell? When you're not doing the Cthulhu campaign, where can people find you?
Probably doing another Kickstarter campaign. The easiest way is on my website, russellnolte.com. Join my mailing list, get some free books. I'm on Twitter and Facebook at Russell Nolte. Since y'all keep finding me on Instagram, I will once again say my Instagram is to talk to my tattoo artist, and that is the only reason I have it. So I will never post on it ever again, but it's at Russell Writes Things. If you want to follow me and then watch me never post anything and only talk to my tattoo artist, you can do that. But that is the only reason I have it. And maybe a couple of other people that I talk to as well who don't have anything else. I will also say that if you back the campaign at CthulhuIsHardToSpell.com this week, you're going to get those 5 issues of The Land of Toons, plus 5 other books and a print by Claire Leslie digitally delivered to you during that campaign, and everything else we unlocked along the way, which we pretty much unlock things every week. You're going to get all of the stuff that we unlock too. So definitely a good time to enter the madness and join in on the fun.
Get some free stuff. Yeah, definitely. Abby, how about you? Where can people find you? And
I am color wired everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, maybe. I don't even know. Colorwired.com. And I don't think that I was the nude monster in the book, but
No, it was Tim.
yes.
It was Tim very blatantly had a big green nude monster in the middle of a page of this book that everyone knows is an all ages book.
How did you catch him?
I would not catch him. He was literally right there. He sent me the pages, and I was like, so like he had to go and they had to like go and like make black like smoke or something around the naughty bits.
Oh, that's how you get away with it. Okay.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think he's trying to say something.
I'm trying to say something, but I can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Tim. The microphone. Maybe you put yourself in mute. He's trying to. I don't know.
I don't know what's going on.
I'm
Can
here.
we hear him?
Yeah.
What were you saying,
You hear
Tim?
me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. What were you saying?
Yeah, that was how we tackled it. Was with the
smoke?
with like some visual effects and even I think a little lettering.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And
Way to
the
do it.
instruction in the book for that one was kind of interesting too. We wanted to emphasize the fact that it was a female goddess, and I think that maybe he took that assignment to the next logical thing. He sort of emphasized some of the attributes, shall we say?
Oh, I learned something tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
How to get away with
And,
nudity.
Well, we had to have a conversation with Nick last book.
Yeah.
That was
right.
you had a last book problem because he did a book called Mother of the Apocalypse, which was Shub Niggurath making men have babies.
Oh yeah.
And he was there, she was just naked the whole time, and I was like, I don't have a problem with this, but like it's a kid's book, so like you gotta know.
Yeah, we had to put some hair over her boobies.
Yeah, there you go. How about you, LK? Where can people find you?
Oh, well, we also had an issue in last one because I somehow promptly forgot that it was all ages, and I was like, oops. So I had to write a whole new script.
Oh, is that why? Oh, okay. I didn't know that was why.
But
Too many
it didn't get to art, so we didn't have to change any art.
Didn't, because I didn't
That's
know
good.
about it.
Yeah. Okay, where can you find me? You can find me at headlessgnomes.com and at headlessgnomes, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I need to get more active on there again, but also if you go to fangsandfoulplay.com, you can sign up for my mailing list and get issue 0.
Awesome. That's great. How about you, Kara?
I am pretty searchable just by my name, Kara Stemo, and I'm on Instagram. I'm on Tumblr. I also have my own website. And those are the big places you can find me.
Awesome.
Can I say one more thing before we get out of here?
Yeah.
Okay, so all of you gave so much time and attention to like this book. I've got to make a play to like, please go and check these people's books out. Like, go buy our book, go buy the Cthulhu book. That's great. But like, please, like I literally read his book, The Hunchback of Quadrant Some Number, and I was like, who is this? Like, and like, why haven't I read all of his books before? And like, then I went and picked out Water Wars, and like, it's so good. Nick, I have not read Kid and the Ripper, but like Nick is the preeminent like Billy the Kid's person that I know. We went to the Billy the Kid Museum together when we were on a road trip. In 4 hours we did there and 4 hours back to see this very bad museum. And he has some other amazing work. He does Monster Elementary and just pretty much all of this. I love all of Nick's work. He kind of we did this really nice monsters for the whole family before we had Cthulhu, which we table with all the time. It's so good. Abby's work is like amazing. I love her color wired stuff. I love her comic stuff. I read Fangs and Foul Play. Like, let me tell you, if you like sarcastic cats, like sarcastic cats with like men or with like men who are in their thralls, like you're gonna like this book. And Kara is the only person I feel so bad I have not looked up their work before.
Actually, that's because I don't have much. This is actually my first entry. Really, the anthology. Yeah.
Oh, really? Well, I guess you're gonna have to.
You gotta build it up.
Yeah. So you'll have to keep checking me out. More will be coming out. I do have something I'm working on currently that is based off a Lovecraft story. It's right now in the rough stages, so that's something you guys have to look forward to because it'll be coming out this year. Once I get moving, I just need to have a deadline that I have to get it all done in 2 weeks.
North Free says we'll have to back and watch the full stream. Good job, everyone. In the house of Riley dead, Cthulhu waits dreaming. I guess that might be a quote from something. Boy. And Harry said, I hear monsters in the background. I do too. Somebody's dog's going nuts.
Sorry, I should have muted myself for the
Awesome. Johnny, anything you want to say before we start heading
People
out
know
here?
where to find me, so I'm not going to spend this time promoting myself. I really want to take the time to thank everybody. Thank all of you guys for coming on the show. Thank you, Russell, for giving me and Kara a chance and a shot in all 3 volumes. We greatly appreciate that. Back Kid and the Ripper when you can. I was glad to have meet LK and Abby kind of face to face a little bit because we've only kind of coexisted in the Facebook group. And last but not least, back to campaign. I mean, it's running now. There's so many awesome perks that are available. There's that dope ass song that's out there, so you can get that as part of your pack and just be excellent to each other.
Yeah, awesome. And I got to reiterate, check out this campaign. Looks great. Check out all these artists and creators on the channel. Go to their websites, follow, what's that?
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing is that you guys, if you have individual projects coming up in the pipeline, Kara, when your project is ready, please come back to us. We'd love to feature you guys and have you on and, have you, share your projects with the rest of us.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to get to know you guys in like a big group situation like this, but yeah, definitely. And try to let us know hopefully a couple months ahead of time because I'm actually booking guests for May right now. So
yeah,
that's how far ahead the show goes out. So yeah, I appreciate you all coming on and spending like way more than an hour with us.
Thank you for devoting your time. We
definitely appreciate anybody out there that's watching us on Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, or any of the other places we are, come to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, help us grow, help us reach more indie creators, like indie comics fans, you know, so we can definitely, you know, indie's where it's at, you know, with comics. So definitely check that out. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. If anybody has any last words before we close this out, are we good? Cthulhu?
Nice to meet you guys.
Yes, nice to meet you guys as
Thank
well.
you for having us.
Yes, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for coming on.
All right, well, if that's it, I will wrap this up. Everyone have a great week, and me and Johnny actually be back next Wednesday on our normal schedule night. I don't remember who the guest is next week, but we'll be here. So come back next Wednesday, 9 p.m. We'll be chatting it up as always, and North Free says, have a good one, everybody. Yeah, thanks for watching, North Free.
Thank you for watching.
All right, guys, have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye.